Hey guys, and welcome back to the Elevate HD podcast. My name is Holly Davidge, and I am your host. As always, I'm an online physique coach, so I help people with fat loss, muscle gain, and just overall optimal physique development. Now, I just want to thank all of you so much for listening and tuning in to my previous podcast episode where I shared a lot of vulnerability with you. I was very open, I was very raw, I was very honest about how I was feeling in terms of my competing journey, both reflecting on the past and looking into the future and trying to decide on my next goal and what my next venture would be with it. So I really appreciate all of the support, and it was really well received. I was a bit nervous, to be honest, because I think a lot of us know when we are in the Instagram space and we go online and we scroll through social media, you just see check-ins and check-ins and check-ins, and you see people who are smashing it in the gym. People are getting all their meals in, no days off, team grind harder, hustling, all that lingo. And sometimes you do have a bit of guilt for having any sort of reservation or doubt about how you're feeling. Like if you feel, God, I don't know if this is for me anymore, or I don't know whether competing is my thing, or I don't know whether I fit in here, you kind of keep it to yourself because you're almost afraid to share it because you don't want people to think that you're not dedicated enough, or you're not driven enough, or you're not hardcore enough. And there is a lot of pressure, even if we don't even realize it. I think subconsciously it is always there, especially for me as someone who has competed for 6 years now, done 12 shows, done 3 seasons, is an online coach myself, also as part of the Physique Collective, being an educator and a coach for them. I do feel a sense of pressure for needing to be on top of things and needing to always have a firm goal in mind and be actively competing and be actively in off season and nailing every variable and maximizing my potential. So taking a step back has been difficult, but I definitely needed it, because I think if I didn't take a step back and if I just ignored all the signs and just persevered and pressed on with everything, I definitely would have crashed eventually. And that's why I wanted to come on to this topic of this podcast, which is, are you ready to prep? Prep or no prep? Is this the time? Is it not the time? And I kind of wanted to explore with you the different factors that I considered in making up my mind about whether I was ready to compete this year specifically, but also in previous years before. And I feel there's many different pillars to it. I don't think it's just a case of, yeah, I'm ready, I feel good, let's go. I think there are a number of considerations you have to take into account, because when you think about it and when you think about going into prep, it's not just you're affecting everyone who has any sort of interaction with you, whether that be your friends, your family, your work, any sort of social situation, anything at all. So it is important to take all of that into consideration and into thought before you decide to embark on this big task, especially if it's your first time. Now, I did my first prep in 2018 and I was with a coach at the time, and I didn't start with her with the idea of competing. I had no thought about competing. I just wanted a coach because I'm the kind of person who always needs some sort of structure and who needs a program to follow in all respects of my life. And I got into the gym, I was doing my own thing. I downloaded a couple of ebooks online, but I didn't really have a sense of what exactly I needed to be doing. To be honest, I was going into some sessions and I thought some sessions you needed to go into the gym and do every single exercise at the gym for that session. So I would do like 15, 20 plus exercises, and I didn't know when to stop. So that's when I decided to get a coach to kind of keep me on the straight and narrow and give me something to follow. And she competed at the time. She did UK BFF. She did a couple of shows there. And through her, I was given the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of other competitors. And then obviously I went to Body Power in 2017, which was my first one. I actually went by myself because I didn't really know anyone in the competing world at the time. And I went via a Grace Fit UK Facebook group post that people were arranging to meet up together. So I just met people that way. So that's how I got into it. And I went to Body Power and I saw these people on stage and I was like, oh my God, these people are so bronzed and they're so lean and they're so like shredded. This is crazy. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. And that planted the seed. And I think it was funny because by that time next year, that very next Body Power in 2018, I was on that stage. So it just shows that it doesn't take much to change your outlook and to change your future plan if you really want something. And that's something I really wanted to do at the time. But I remember this coach, she sent me a message and she said, look, I'm fully supportive of you deciding to prep, because I was just a Gen Pop client at the time and I just decided to go for it. And she was like, you need to make sure that everything in your life is in order, like your relationships, your finances, your work, your family, like literally everything needs to be in a good place before you commit to doing this, because it is a long road. It's going to be harder than any diet you'd ever done. I thought I'd be fine because I did a summer diet the previous summer and I got pretty lean. Like I got pretty much close to my stage weight, but obviously now my stage weight is like more muscular and less body fat. But I got pretty lean, lost a good amount of weight, and I was like, well, this is pretty easy. I should be able to do this myself. But lo and behold, I was not prepared for the extremity of a prep diet and how strict it was. So from there, that definitely stuck with me and kind of struck a chord with me. And I always remember that conversation she had with me, which I'm really appreciative of. So I kind of wanted to go through the pillars with you. So obviously the number one consideration that underpins everything is that you love it. Obviously, you're not going to know straight away if you love it, but you should have an indication. Like, you shouldn't just want to compete because you go on Instagram, you see people in sparkly bikinis and bronze skin and sparkly jewelry and think, I want that. I want to be glamorous like that. That is the wrong reason. Because of course, show day is really glamorous. You know, you're all done up to the nines. Your makeup is perfect. Your skin, your nails, your tan, your bikini, your physique, obviously, is all primed for that one day and that 5 minutes on stage. But that is literally a blip in the entire prep. It's probably 0.00001% of the entire prep. 99.99999 infinite percent of the prep is you struggling, being fatigued, being tired, really, really having to grind hard, work hard, dig hard, being hungry, being tired, being fatigued, low energy, pushing yourself when you don't want to do things, training when you don't want to do things. And the only way you're going to survive that is if you have an underlying love for the process. So when you get into prep, you love your training. You just cannot wait to go to the gym. You are like jumping for joy when it's time to go. You love the sessions. You embrace it. Yeah, you love getting stronger. You love progressing your lifts. You love just feeling empowered by that. You love the way you eat. You love your nutrition. You already eat like 4 to 6 times a day. You already eat high protein. You already get your fruits and veg in. You're very structured and regimented with your meals anyway. You probably meal prep when you're on the go or when you go to work. You might have 1 or 2 meals out a week, but that's pretty much it. Like, you don't just live on the fly. You don't just grab Tesco meal deals every day. You don't like not have a plan. Like, you do, you should already have some sort of structure and plan in place, and you should love it. You should love the nutrition. You should love eating whole single ingredient foods. You should love the training. You should love the structure and rigidity of life. And now this isn't for anyone or for everyone. I would say this kind of lifestyle is more for like blue personality types, like I am myself. I don't know if you've ever read Surrounded by Idiots, but it kind of shows the different color personality types and what kind of lifestyle that suits them. For me, I'm very blue, which means that I like data, I like analytics. I was really good at maths in school. I'm a scientist. I like studying. I like making lists. I like numbers. I like spreadsheets. I like trackers. I like all that kind of stuff. And for people who like that regimen and structure of life, it will suit them down to the ground, because your routine has to stay very consistent in off season, but also in prep, especially in terms of your meal times have to be at specific times during the day. Your training is at a specific time. You have to be able to get up early to do cardio, to do steps. You have to manage your time and navigate life while having this at the forefront. So all that being said, if you don't enjoy getting up and knowing you have boxes to tick each day, that, okay, I have to get up, I have to do my cardio, then I have to get my steps in, then I have to get my meals in, then I have to do meal prep, then I have to train, then I have to do XYZ, this is not for you, because prep is all about structure and organization. And if you are not nailing everything, and if you're not excited about nailing everything, and if you just live by the seat of your pants, if that's the phrase, is that the phrase? Live by the seat of your pants and just kind of go on the fly and feck around, see what happens, it's probably not the thing for you to do. So I think that's the underlying thing. Your love of training, your love of eating well, of having nutritious food. Your friends probably think of you as that fit girl, that active girl, that gym bunny, the girl that's always in the gym, because it's probably kind of a part of your identity already. You should not, this goes without saying, you should not go into a prep if you haven't been training. I would say especially for bigger classes, but even in bikini, if you haven't been training for a couple of years, please do an off season. Please take some time away to grow, because if you don't take that time away to grow before you go into a prep, you are going to have nothing to show for it. The prep is not where you build muscle. You do not build muscle in a prep. You're eating very, very little amounts of food. You're doing tons of cardio. You're working very hard. You are not building muscle. You're just trying to retain every inch and shred and ounce of muscle that you built in the first place. So that is another consideration. Do you have enough muscle to go into a prep? If you don't, go back into an off season, build some muscle, then come back and see where you are. But yeah, overall love for the process, and knowing that that love and that passion for the process is going to drive you through the hard times, the hunger, the fatigue, the low energy. That is an important consideration. Secondly is obviously financial. Like, if you don't know much about prep, realize that it's very expensive. Obviously there are ways to manage your budget, and that might be something I could do a podcast on in the future. So let me know if that'd be helpful for you, because I definitely have found ways as I progress through my seasons to make things more cost effective, especially if you're doing multiple shows and you want to try many different looks and federations. You want to be able to manage that budget, but it can be very expensive. Number one, obviously you're going to have to hire a prep coach. Depending on who you go to, that can be a couple of $100 a month. You have to do posing lessons. Again, you can shop around, but generally that's going to be quite expensive as well. You're going to have to pay for your bikini. You're going to have to pay for your posing heels and your jewelry. You're going to need to do show registration. Then you're going to need to, well, you might need to get first an annual membership for the federation. Then you need your show day registration. Then you need your tan, your hair, your makeup, travel, accommodation, all that kind of stuff. And then everything you need for prep in terms of nutrition and in terms of different equipment you need and stuff like that. It all adds up. So make sure you are in a place that you can budget that. Now, Compact actually has a really good budget tracker. I think you can get it on their website, where you can lay out all the expenses and then potentially have like a sinking fund each month, where even before you start prep, put like £50, £100 into an account or in like a Monzo pot or something, to have that little nest egg for you, so that when you come to pay for all this stuff, it's not just like a massive hit to your expenses, because it can be very expensive. So financially, you need to be in a good place. You need to know that there's security in your income as well, because if you're on a contract or if you're working for yourself, if you all of a sudden have a hit of income, then you might not be able to pay for that. And that's just going to add to your stress. And you don't need additional stress in a prep when it's already stressful enough as it is. So financially, you should feel secure. You should have a fund there ready for you to go for your competing necessities. And you should be in some sort of stable income position, or else be making enough money so that if you do have a hit, it's not going to be the end of the world. I don't think a lot of people talk about that, about the fact that you need to have financial stability in a show season, because things rack up and there are unintentional costs and costs you don't realize. And you might get FOMO when you decide to do an extra show and you hadn't budgeted for it. So you need to make sure you have that safety net available to you. Thirdly, kind of related to that, is obviously your work situation. As I said, if you're in a permanent full-time position, that is probably the easiest in terms of being comfortable in your security financially, because you know at a certain day of every single month you're going to get a paycheck. You know exactly how much it is. You can budget that out. I would highly recommend, even if you don't already, starting a budget, even if you're not in prep, because competing and bodybuilding in general can be expensive with, you know, gym memberships and stuff like that, and travel. And if you're going to events and seminars and education and stuff like that, memberships, that can all add up. So I'd highly recommend doing a budget with that. But yeah, the job situation, if you're in a full-time job, you're fully employed, that's completely fine. But if you are a contractor who seeks out work for a couple of months at a time, or if you're self-employed, say you're an online coach yourself, you're a PT, you do your own self-employed work, maybe you're a videographer, a photographer, and you need to rely on freelance work, that is going to be difficult as well. And that's why I would suggest, before you start your prep, maybe ramping up your work a little bit, trying to get more clients on board. Because let me tell you, when you're in the middle of prep and you realize you've dropped a couple of clients and you need to get them back on board or build them back up again, it's going to be a lot more difficult when you don't have the energy and you don't have the motivation or the drive to be marketing yourself on social media, or to be doing videos or content or messaging people or reaching out to people and trying to get collaborations. You're going to be completely brain taxed at the time. The diet fog is going to be real. Your prep brain is in full force, and you're just not going to have the capabilities to do that mentally. So I would say in advance, maybe ramp up the social media posting, maybe ramp up your marketing a little bit, so you can get a couple of extra clients on board, so that if a couple drop off, that's not the end of the world. Same goes for contracting. Maybe put yourself into a contract that's long enough that will see you towards the end of prep. But as well as that, as well as like maintaining the financial security with that, like you still need to do your job. And I think that is something that a lot of people fail to remember, is that you can't just coast by on life just because you're on prep. You don't live in a vacuum just because you live on prep. You can't just say, right, I'm dieting now, I'm stepping on stage now, doesn't matter what my boss thinks of me, it doesn't matter how I perform in work, I can just take my foot off the gas and it will be fine, because it's absolutely not fine. Like if someone is employing you or they're paying you as a client, they're expecting a level of service and a quality of service that you promised that you would deliver. And if you're not delivering that, they have every right to not want to work with you, or to fire you, or to reprimand you for not fulfilling what you promised and what you said you would deliver. So for me, I find it much easier because I actually work from home as part of my main job and as part of coaching. So I don't have to worry about commuting somewhere. I don't have super long hours. I do have to travel a lot for work, and that's something else kind of to consider as well. But overall, I find working from home makes it a lot easier to manage my fatigue and my energy, and also train either early in the morning, get it out of the way, and then focus on work, or train in the evening after all the work is done. But make sure you're in a place with your job where you feel secure, you feel like financially in a good place, you do a good job, you make sure that you still look after your clients, or still look after whatever employer you're working for, still deliver on your promises, still hit targets and deadlines, and don't let that slip, because it's very, very easy to do that. And I would just highly recommend doing your best to stay in the right place and make sure you're doing a good job with that. So yeah. So following on from work, finances, all that kind of stuff, obviously relationships is a big one. Now, if your partner or other half is a bodybuilder and they've competed themselves, it's not going to really be a consideration for you, because they know the lifestyle, they eat, sleep and breathe it themselves, they might have done it themselves. So they don't have as much of an uncertainty or a shock when you start doing it. But if you're with someone who's not in the competing world and this is the first time you're doing it as well, it's going to be a bit of a wake up call for you guys. And I think it will be a real test of your relationship, because you won't be able to go out to eat. You won't be able to have a drink with them. You won't be able to open up a bottle of wine on a Friday night. You won't be able to just sit and watch the TV with them in the evenings, because you'll either be getting steps or going to train or doing your cardio or prepping your meals. You will have a lot less available time. So I think it's important that if they are not in the world, to sit down with them before you start prep and say, look, I want to start prep. This is how long it's roughly going to be. These are the things I need to tick off every day. And this is the time I'm going to be able to give you for our quality time, for our social time. On a Friday night, we will go to a movie together. Maybe we will go for a long walk in the mornings or in the evenings. Like, try and find things that you can do together that don't revolve around food. Now, if you're already in the industry, if you're a PT, if you're an online coach, if you're already kind of a bodybuilder who lives the bodybuilding lifestyle, but you haven't competed yet, I think this should be fine, because you probably live this life anyway. You probably already train 5 times a week. You probably already go to the gym. You probably already eat nutritious foods, eat 4 to 6 times a day, meal prep, live that life. But if it's completely brand new to you, it's going to be a bit of a shock for your partner. So just make sure that you have that understanding together. You sit them down, you say, look, I want to do this prep. It means a lot to me. It's a big achievement for me to be able to accomplish this. So this is what I need to do every day. And this is where I'll have time for you, and we will schedule in that quality time. The thing is, no matter how busy you are, you always will have time for things that mean the most to you. So if your partner means a lot to you, you will find that time, whether that's evening walks, whether that's lunchtime getting together, whether that's going to movies at the weekend. Maybe they will do your cardio with you or do your steps with you, going for coffee, all that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of ways for you to manage it, but just make sure they understand that you probably won't be able to go out to eat with them, or if you do, you'll probably have to sit there and nurse a Diet Coke or something and not eat the meal. So as long as they're supportive and make sure they're fully behind you, if there is any sort of animosity or reservation, talk it out, and maybe speak to other couples who have been through it before, so that they know what they've gone through, and they can kind of share their insights and their tips on how it worked for them. But I've done preps in relationships before, and it's been fine, because the other person has been understanding, and I've given them the heads up, I've communicated well, and we find plenty of things to do that have nothing to do with eating or drinking. And it makes you get kind of creative, because the things you can do like crazy golf, you can do bowling, you can do kind of all these fun activities, or axe throwing, or roller skating. There's so many things that you can do that don't involve food and drink. So just remember that you can get creative, and life doesn't have to revolve around alcohol or food all the time. So similar to relationships would be like your friends and family, and that would be the same thing. Like, remember that there is more to life than eating and drinking, and remind your friends of that. So if they do suggest, oh, do you want to go out for lunch or dinner, or do you want to go for a drink somewhere, just say, look, I'm on this prep. I really want to nail it. I really want to give it my all. I'd love to go for a coffee with you. I actually need to get steps in. Do you want to go for a walk with me? Do you want to go to the cinema with me? Do you want to come to this event I'm going to? I'm actually going to a posing seminar at the weekend. And just be upfront about it and be honest. And I've never really had any bad feedback in terms of that. Like, my very first prep, I was working in Cambridge University at the Department of Medicine in a research lab, and people were intrigued. They were curious. They were asking me like, oh, I thought you wanted to lose weight. Like, why are you eating carbs after 6? Or why are you eating carbs at all? Or, they obviously have those preconceptions, which we know are myths at this point, but they didn't. So I was just open and honest with them, and they were fully supportive. And I would go out to dinner with them, and we'd go to burger places, and I would sit there with a Diet Coke, or I'd bring my own meal prep, and everyone just thought it was really interesting. So to be honest, maybe I'm lucky, but I've never had really any sort of negative feedback being in prep from a friend or a coworker or a family member either. Family is the other consideration. Like, if you live at home, it might be different. I mean, family is in like your mum and dad and your aunts and uncles and stuff like that. Maybe they will struggle to understand. And my mum initially, when I did my first prep, she did struggle. She didn't understand why I wanted to do it. She thought it was very extreme, very aggressive. She thought I was like trying to starve myself to death, which, to be fair, you're not far off. Like, let's be honest, it is a game of starvation, and you're trying to get to extremely low levels of body fat and be extremely lean. So you're going to have to starve yourself to a certain point. But she just didn't really understand why I was doing it. And because I was living in Cambridge and she was living in Dublin, she couldn't really see what I got out of it or what positive I got out of it. And the very first time I think she really saw, and to be fair to her, she came to my first show, even though she didn't really understand. She was always supportive, even though she didn't understand. But I think the first time it clicked with her and she saw, God, I know why Holly does this now. I can really see it. Was when I competed in Cork for the National National Bodybuilding Federation Ireland, NBFI, which is the Natural Bodybuilding Federation in Ireland. And she came down with me and we spent the weekend in Cork, and it was honestly the best day ever. It still probably is in my mind my favorite show I've ever done. Because it was just such a good day. Everyone was in such good form. Even when I was on stage or backstage or had to get my tan done, like, people were talking to her, looking after her, sitting with her. And she just kind of saw the community and the network and the support that I got all the time from my bodybuilding community. And that was when she really first saw, God, I can see why she does this. I also won that show, so that also helped. So it was a great celebration after. And then after that, she just became fully supportive of me. She even traveled with me to New York to watch me compete in Long Island for the WNBF finals in 2019. So she was really, really supportive. So I think that's important, is that if your family don't see why you're doing it, maybe show them, bring them to a show, show them how supportive everyone is, show them all the friends you've made, tell them about the events you've gone to where you've met new people, tell them about all the positives, because they might only see the negatives because maybe you're only talking to them about the negatives. Maybe you're telling them, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm starving, I don't have enough food, I wish I could eat something. And if you're only feeding them with negatives, then that's all they're going to know. So it's kind of on you in a way to take initiative and show them exactly why you're doing it. Show them the positives, show them what extra it's bringing into your life, and show them the benefits, because it's very easy for them to see the negatives when you're talking nonstop about them. So that is that. And yeah, basically underpinning all of it, of course, is that you are ready to do it. Like what I said in the past podcast is, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And this is something that I went through this time, because I think even though it's not my first season, it's not my first rodeo, my fourth season it would have been, and I was meant to start prep just January, just gone. I still went through all of these facets of my life in my head and kind of used them as a checklist to see, right, is this in a good place? Is this in a good place? So yeah, financially is fine. Career wise, fine. Family, friends, all that stuff was in a really, really good place. But the last kind of big thing is the mental aspect of it. Like, do you feel mentally ready to commit your whole entire existence to 16, 18, 20 plus weeks devoted to this? because yes, you're going to have to maintain your friendships and your relationships and your work and your career and your everything, but they're all going to be pretty much running on autopilot in the background, really, because 100% of your being and your thoughts and your mind and your brain and your energy is going to be put into this prep. And if you're not ready for that, or if you have any sort of reservation or doubt, or you're thinking, God, I don't know whether I can do this right now, then it's a no. If you're not jumping for joy, thinking, God, I cannot wait to start prep, if you're not counting down the days until day one, if you're not just like ready to like dive into it and put everything else on the back burner and just throw yourself into it, then it's a no. And that's what I kind of felt, is that, yes, I would love to prep again. I've always thought I didn't feel finished at my last season. I did feel like I had more left in me. I did feel like I still have more goals to achieve. But when I was thinking about starting prep back in January, I just said, like, I don't know if I'm ready to give up the way I live my life right now. A big consideration of that is that last year I made a good amount of friends outside of bodybuilding, the bodybuilding world, and we do a lot of things together. And I was just nurturing those relationships. And I was like, I'm going to have to already say to them, right, guys, we're going to have to park it. Yes, I can see you, but I'm not going to be able to eat with you. I'm not going to be able to drink with you. We can meet for coffee and walks, but that's about it. And I just wasn't ready to do that to my new fostering relationships. Maybe if it had been a few years and we'd known each other really well, I could have done that, but I wasn't ready at that point yet to do that. And as well as that, obviously we all know I have a food blog. I've actually just changed the name of the food blog from Hungry Holly Diaries to Hungry Holly MCR. Just don't know, it just looked a bit better to me. And that has exploded this year, honestly. Like, this year has been crazy with it. I've been doing 2 to 3 food invites a week, where basically the restaurant sends me a DM and says, hey, we'd love you to come check out our restaurant. Can you come and try us out and post about it? So I have gotten all these free meals. I've been going to all these restaurants. I've been driving all over Manchester, getting all the content, eating all the food, having a great time. I've met so many cool people from all the events I've been to. And if I decided to prep, I would have had to put that on a firm standstill. I would have had to pause my account. I wouldn't have been able to go to any of the events, any of the socializing, any of the restaurants. And I've tried like all these amazing restaurants that have been on my list for ages, and they're all being ticked off. And it's a job, kind of, it's part of my job description now. It's one of my forms of income. And to be able to do that has been really cool. So to say no to that and to put a pause on that, it wouldn't have been the right time for me, because I'm not ready to do that. It's still a novelty for me. I'm still enjoying it. It's still fun to go out and eat and bring my friends for free food and go to events and meet people. And I wasn't ready for that. And also mentally, obviously, with the advent of me becoming 30 in December, I had a lot of thoughts about the future and my family situation and my relationship situation and whether I want kids or not. And I just hadn't made a firm decision in that respect. Like, maybe if I'd already had kids or I was already married, I was already settled down, and I thought, okay, I've done all that now. That's all part of my checklist. And now I can go back to competing, maybe. And that's something that I might do. Maybe I'll stop competing for now, settle down, have a family, whatever, and then go back to it, which I know a lot of people do. Or I might decide, I can do this. I want to do this, but I wasn't ready to make that firm decision yet. And as I said before, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And that is what I kind of came to realize, that my heart wasn't 100% in it. And in previous preps, I was like dying to start prep. But at the end of off season, being like, I just want to prep. I just want to prep. I just want to prep. I want to be hungry. I want to be tired. I want to be fatigued. I want to be shredded. I want to do it all now, now, now. And this time I was like, I have such a good balance in my life where I'm eating food I enjoy. I'm at a really good body composition where I'm happy with how I look. I'm enjoying like going out to eat. I'm enjoying getting dressed up with the girls, being a normal human that I never allowed myself to do for the past 6 years. And to have that experience of just being normal and not worrying about, oh, but that doesn't fit in with my off-plan meal day, so I can't go out to eat, or I can't eat out twice a week, or I can't go out to this restaurant because I have to train that evening, or those kind of things. Is just, I just wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready. And I'm still thinking about it. I still haven't made a firm decision, but I still need time to think. And I'm going to allow myself to have that and not feel guilty about it, because it is a big choice. And especially like getting into your 30s, it's not like you're a kid anymore. You do have more responsibility you have to be aware of. So that is what I would say to you. So yeah, closing remarks, make sure your pillars are all in a good place. So financial, career, or whether you're self-employed or employed, family, friends, relationships, everything, mental, physical, everything has to be a good place. Also, like, just touching on the physical, like, make sure you're eating enough food so that when you diet, you don't have to diet into the ground, which you might have to do anyway, but make sure you're starting at a good amount of food that you can pull from. Make sure you're not doing tons of cardio so that you can add cardio in later. Make sure you have a decent amount of muscle mass. Make sure that you are in a good body composition so that you don't have to be dieting forever. Like, there's so many different considerations, and I just wanted this to be a quick one, so it's going to end up being a whole other podcast, which I could do. I think I could do like a whole pre-prep phase podcast about where you need to be from a physical standpoint in terms of food and training and muscle mass and knowing where you sit division wise and all that kind of stuff. So I'll definitely do that in the future. If you drop me a follow, whether it's on Spotify or subscribe to me on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or wherever you follow, you will get that at some point, because I have so many ideas for podcasts, and I'm trying to make sure I do an episode for each and every one, but I tend to go on tangents. I don't know if you've noticed. I do tend to chat a lot, which is why a podcast is great for me, because when I do Instagram reels and they're only 60 seconds long, I cannot fit in everything I want to say, and it just stresses me out. So I like having longer form content to be able to chat to you and really divulge and open things up and tear things apart. I think it's like really, really important. So I would really appreciate you following me. Also, if you give me a follow on Instagram, you will see when all my podcasts come out. I also want to mention that I am taking on online clients currently at the moment. So if you're interested in either getting ready for prep, doing an off season before prep, doing a photo shoot prep, or doing a competition for the first time, second time, doesn't matter, I would love to help out. Like, I have done, as I said, 12 shows, 3 seasons. I have a lot of experience. I've done countless photo shoots. I've been there. I know what it feels like. I've done everything wrong and I've made lots of mistakes and I've learned from them. And I want to make sure I pass on that information to you so you don't have to go there. And I will guide you through every single step on the way. So if that is something you're interested in, just send me a message. I'm at Holly_Physique Collective on Instagram, or you can send me an email, which is info@hollydavage.com. But yeah, that is pretty much it. If you tuned into this episode, please take a screenshot, share it to your story, tag myself. I'm at Holly_Physique Collective on Instagram. Please leave a 5-star rating and review if you enjoyed it. I have actually got 2 Apple reviews now. I thought I only had 1, and then I found one the other day. So I've got 2 5-star reviews and a really nice message on both of them. So if you could leave me a review, that'd be really, really helpful to grow the podcast. And just reach out. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any topics you want me to cover or guests. That'd be great as well, because it helps me to know what you guys want, because I'm doing this for you, and make sure that you get what you need out of it, get what you need to be your best self, both physically and mentally. So that is pretty much it, guys. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will speak to you all very soon.